All right, welcome back to The Few Show, everybody. My name is Bud. I am Chief of Staff at Xfusion.io and the co-host of The Few Show. I am excited today to be joined by my guest, Patrick Hudgins. Patrick is the co-founder and CEO of Delegate, a RevOps-as-a-Service company, helping venture-backed startups accelerate growth across their go-to-market technology stack. Patrick, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Excited to be on, Bud.
Right on. Hey, I want to get into your background just a little bit, kind of give the viewers a little taste of who you are. This isn't your first rodeo. You were previously the first part of the first SMB sales team at Talkdesk, which became one of the fastest growing global companies with 1,500 plus employees and a $10 billion valuation. So this is not, like I said, your first rodeo. You have been in this business for a while. You know big numbers. You know sales. You were also part of numerous early stage companies. You have raised millions of dollars in funding and acquired by global companies such as Appen, Avalara, BlackBerry. You know this game. Go ahead and talk about those a little bit before we get into Delegate. And then we'll start talking about the founding story. We'll start talking about why Delegate was created, why you're part of that. But just talk about your background a little bit.
Yeah. My background is mostly working for fast-growing companies that have recently taken on lots of funding and now need to use that capital to go out and build client relationships, build client revenue. I've worked for largely in the B2B software industry, selling software to companies, big data focused companies, focused on scanning providing large, format data to kind of Fortune 500 companies. Worked with companies building ML and AI technologies, and Talkdesk was focused on call center technology, so building basically a call center in the cloud that would sit on top of your CRM and help you understand who was calling in and why, and when you're making outbound calls, be more effective on the phone. So that's my background.
Right. So that kind of is kind of a linear motion straight into Delegate, right? I mean, that kind of leads straight into why or what Delegate is. So let's go ahead and tell the viewers exactly what Delegate is and why you started Delegate and how that all got started.
Yeah. So Delegate provides RevOps or go-to-market systems support for the tools sales, marketing, and customer success teams leverage to measure client interactions, improve their client experience, retain revenue at scale, and ultimately close more business. The kind of gorilla in that go-to-market technology stack is Salesforce. It's usually about 80% of what we do, I would say. But it's also ancillary tools that need to work effectively with Salesforce for individual contributors to have a clear view of what their workflow should look like, and executives to get the right metrics at the end of the day. So I started the company while working at Talkdesk. Initially, I identified the problem. I was on one side of the house focused on building a sales team, helping them close more revenue, and my numbers essentially. And the rest of the company had a few questions on things like questions from the customer success team around onboarding new clients, questions from the support team around what types of clients we should be selling, questions from finance team about what types of deals we should be selling. And so all these kind of translated into how can we automate this process of bringing on new clients into the business more effectively that would not put so much of the burden on sales reps. And so I had a hard time going through that process and building that team for that reason, that kind of operations function, and that was the problem I was hoping to solve with Delegate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go through some of the things that are on your website here with Delegate that I find very interesting, and I just kind of want to walk through them. So it says that you have dedicated resources for your accounts. So is that dedicated for each account, you have a dedicated agent. When you sign people up, do they get a dedicated agent for their accounts, so they don't have to worry about multiple people bouncing back and forth onto their accounts? Is that what that means?
So I think the the solution that I was talking about, like the having someone to go to, having some place to go to where you can make changes to your internal systems, administration of Salesforce, but it's also ancillary to like all the things that need to work effectively, kind of for your client to come in, for you to know who they are, all the way to like ongoing renewal. Those things, you learn more about your business as your business grows, and therefore you want to make adjustments to how you talk to customers along that journey. And the way you talk to customers is typically through software or through automation at scale, so that you make sure that you have a consistent experience at scale. And so providing that go-to place for clients to come in and have a place to have those conversations, a big part of that is having the same person over time, so that you don't have to like reinvent the wheel or reset context for what your business is trying to accomplish every time you need to like build a new report. Like you don't have to be like, well, the company does this, and here's what Bill wants to see, and here's what Jane wants to see. You know that because that person's been working with you over time. That's why you hire somebody in-house, so that you don't have to like keep providing context at the beginning of every new project. You can just kind of pick up the ball and run with it on an ongoing basis.
Okay. So now here's something else that fascinates me.
Yeah.
You have quarterly retrospectives, which are actually broken down even further into weekly sprints, you call them,
yeah.
right? So you are constantly every week kind of updating what you want your people or your agents, I'm not sure exactly what you call them,
yeah.
what you want them to do and what you want them to accomplish. So you can change what your clients are wanting, from your agents, and you can update your agents accordingly to what your clients need. So you have a dedicated agent, but you can also change that dedicated agent to what they need. Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah, that's right. We call them delegates internally, if you will. So,
well, I guess that would make sense.
Or solutions engineers. A lot of times we refer to them in that regard. That's like their formal title, but in essence, they're a delegate for your team. Yeah, the response to that is no one's an expert in everything. And we're not going to tell you that everyone on our team is an expert in everything. That would be too big of a stretch of a truth to even be considered a fact. So I think what we do is we provide you one person who's your go-to resources. If you're going into a project where you need specialized technical understanding, like let's say you're doing a Pardot or a Marketo implementation, and the person that you're working with currently has been great, but they don't know Marketo. You probably want to layer on top of one of those of that another delegate, and that you would go up in price for that month. But you would get the benefit from that continued that continuity of the person you've been working with somebody who's an expert in that technology, and then they work together to make sure that they have context for where the bodies are buried, if you will, internally on your systems, and you're getting somebody who's really excellent at that technology and has recently worked on projects with that technology, and so they know like the ins and the outs, and you can get up and running faster. Which is a nice experience.
Okay, nice. So you don't lose the continuity of having that agent by losing that agent and getting another one. You keep that agent, and then for the month you add another agent who's an expert in what you need.
Yeah.
And then you can get rid of that agent, or you can keep that agent if you need to keep doing that expertise.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And I want to just
I got you.
I want to just touch on one thing if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I talked to, or I kind of explained the what we do in terms of what we sell to clients, and you and I kind of both understood that because I've been on the buying side of this, and kind of that was the problem I was trying to solve. But I want to also tell the story of my co-founder. My co-founder was kind of on the other side of the house, more technical, real smart guy, but he was like looking at the sales team saying like, wow, they can control how much they make in a given month. And I can't. Like, I'm a smart guy, I got a master's in computer science. Why is the only thing I can do to control how much I make every month going to drive for Uber after work or something like that? Like, why can't I use the skills that I've learned, the skills that I've built through my career in my off time to supplement my income and control my W-2 at the end of the year, control my kind of financial destiny over and above my kind of normal employment. And so he was looking for ways that he could take, that he could take the extra time that he had after work and apply it in a way that, he could do that control and have control over his career. So that was the kind of primordial ooze that led us to where we are at. So we talk a lot about how we serve customers and, in a forward-facing way. That's a big kind of part of our talk track. But really, how we do it is with great people, and you have to incentivize great people the right way. And so we've got a huge internal pool of administrators, really technically qualified, that are constantly upskilling themselves and leaning on each other where needed to improve, their technical skill sets. And those people benefit from the fact that they can work from home, they can control their W-2, they can control what their work lives look like. They can have say over what types of technologies that they're working on. Basically, they can control their career. They can have more autonomy over their building their careers, which I think is really special in the go-to-market systems and Salesforce world. Is that they can kind of retain a lot more control than some people who are in-house, and they have to use the tools that the company purchases, let's say, and they have to make whatever the company says that they have to make, and they have to live wherever the company says they have to live. And so this kind of puts a lot more autonomy back on the individual contributor, which is something we're just really proud of, and I think is really different in what we do. So what we sell is this go-to-market, great experience, and that's this problem we solve. But we also solve a different problem for the people who provide the service and comprise our company.
Nice. So you brought up several things there, and some of those I have questions on that we'll hit later.
Sure.
As it comes to your people and where they come from and whether they're remote or in-house, and we'll talk about some of that stuff later.
Yeah.
But one of those things I didn't have any questions on, but you brought it up, so I want to kind of get away from Delegate for a second, and we'll come back.
Yeah.
But it's a question on your co-founder.
Yeah.
And you are obviously opposite type people, right? Like, he's more technical, sure, and you're more sales. Yeah. So since this is a show about founders, and how founders work, and that type of thing, I'm interested in how you guys got hooked up with each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of founders that we have on here are co-founders.
Okay.
So the question about how you guys got hooked up, I want you to follow that up by, do you think it's important for co-founders to be from different backgrounds, since you are a co-founder? Or do you think it's good for co-founders to kind of be similar?
I think that question, so the way we had worked at the same company, so I knew him, relationship-wise. Okay. He flagged me down I was walking through a cafe in the LinkedIn building in San Francisco, and he flagged me after, recently leaving Talkdesk, and he flagged me down, and we started chatting from there. So it was like, hey, I'm thinking about this thing. He brought the idea to me of like, hey, I'm thinking about this thing. What do you think? Do you want to talk? Blah, blah, blah. And that's how the thing started. Turned into more from there. In terms of alike or similar, I think for co-founders, it feels like a marriage. Like, do you want to be too much like your partner in a marriage? You probably, that might feel great and very warm and cozy sometimes to be so alike, but at the same time, it's nice to be a little bit different. Usually in a marriage, you've got somebody who's more outgoing and more quiet, somebody more quiet. You've got somebody who's more focused on finances, and somebody who's more focused on fun. And so I think that those types of things, when you start a company especially, like you can't both do everything. So you have to have a division of labor to begin with, especially as you grow. Like you don't have enough money to pay a bunch of executives at the beginning. So there has to be a deliberate division of labor. So if neither of you can do half the things, then that's probably not a good partnership. You're going to end up bringing on somebody or hiring somebody that has to do those things. And whether or not you call that third person a co-founder, well, they are in practice because they're building those things. And if you're listening to the show and you find yourself in one of those positions, call me and I'll help you negotiate. You as a co-founder, you have to have slightly different skill sets, and it's better for the harmony of the relationship. It's nice if you get along and have continuity. We were and are very different people, but I would say over the 4+ years that we've been working together now on this project, we've now grown. He's like a brother to me. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great answer. I think it's right on. If you met, I wish we would have done this before the SaaStr conference.
Oh yeah,
because my co-founders went out there and I would have tried to introduce you to them.
Cool.
But they weren't. They're not anything alike. They get along really well. But I think they're both very technical because they're both way more technical than I am.
Sure.
But Jim is much more relationship based.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he was a detective for the police force for years, and I mean, he's just very much a relationship based person. And David was an engineer at Uber for years. He just grew up, computers, building, and he's much more happy just being in the background, just building stuff.
Yeah.
And that relationship works really, really well.
Yeah.
Now, they're both trying to work on their weaknesses and build their strengths, but you're right. You have to have, I believe, those differences in order to make something like this work.
Yeah.
Good answer.
It's strange how when you look back after you build a company, how the company looks so much like you. It's like, it's like, I think parents probably feel this about their children, but like the things that are important for me and in my professional cadence are healthy relationships and clear expectations. Those things are the things that are important to me. Healthy working relationships and clear expectations that reinforce those healthy working relationships. Because if one of us is off on the expectation, that's kind of a recipe for a poor relationship. And that's kind of how we serve and build our services organization. And the thing that's number one top priority for my co-founder is delivering value as fast as he can in any given product. Like bias towards getting an MVP out the door. And that's what our clients really appreciate at the beginning of a relationship, is that we're like, okay, what is the minimum thing that we can deliver to you that you're going to go, yep, that works. And then we can iterate on from there. But that bias towards getting work out the door kind of builds back towards our the philosophy for how we begin engagements. And it's kind of how the company has been built up.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you for taking that aside with me. I think that was good. I like that answer. I like those answers that you just gave. So, all right, let's go ahead and get back on track with Delegate there.
Sure.
So we were talking about weekly sprints. We were talking about how your agents, you have a dedicated agent, and how you can bring one on and take them off as needed for their expertise. I wonder, or your delegates, sorry. Do your delegates, I wonder, do they integrate into the existing client's team, or are they more, do they more sit back with you, or do you try and integrate them into your clients to make them feel like they're part of their team as much as possible?
Yeah, we try and bring a certain amount of structure to a working relationship. And if we're working with a smaller company that is like somewhat disorganized or maybe doesn't have a clear process around how they should deliver ongoing support or ongoing optimization for those tools, then we bring professionalization to that world. We bring clear expectations. We bring a sprint kit, an agile sprint cadence. We bring responsiveness, and that's just the thing. It's like the predictability, if you will, to what that should look like. So if an executive has a report or dashboard or workflow or an idea, they now have a predictable place that they can go to and say, well, how do we get this solved? And so that's a huge peace of mind opportunity that we can provide companies that don't have that structure. Companies that already have like a team in place, clear structure, awesome. You betcha. We're going to meet you where you're at and get included in your rotational team and be somebody who's external and internal at the same time, which is kind of nice. Because if your internal team, sometimes you're so close to a problem, you don't have, like the ability to step back and see the big picture. Or if you've been at a company for a long time, sometimes you haven't seen how these types of problems have been solved at other companies. And so because we're actively working with a diverse group of companies, you get the benefit that we've probably seen a problem like this somewhere along the way. And we can insert and say like, hey, this is how we've seen it solved in the past, which can help you reduce overall kind of ideation time.
Nice. No, I like that. We kind of do the same thing here, right? We try and get we call them agents, our agents structured into the flow of the company as best we can. Mm-hmm. But we do the same. Like we have some small clients that our agents are the only ones there, and so we structure our guys as well as we can. And then the bigger clients, we do our best to just kind of fit them in to what they're doing as best we can. But we also provide thought leadership into those companies just the same as you do, sure, from a 30,000 foot view. Yeah. Because sometimes those guys are myopic. They're only dealing with what they can deal with. So I mean, you're doing a great thing by bringing in those resources that you're dealing with from the other companies that you're dealing with. So
and if it's
great job,
and if it's your team or it's my team, like anytime as a buyer. If I'm talking to a salesperson or I'm talking to a consultant, I'm talking to somebody who is outside the business providing a service to my business, the number one thing, aside from like the service that I purchased, the number one thing I'm hoping to get from that interaction is like, what do you know that I don't know about the industry, about the business, about what we can be doing better? Like, I'm doing discovery when I engage with somebody. I'm like, what can I learn from you? Because you have specialized knowledge, you have access to the industry that I don't have, you have specific product knowledge that I don't have, you have a depth of experience in providing service that I don't have. What can I learn from that I can then go and apply to our business? And so that's a huge thing for me as a buyer, and we strive to build a business that can deliver that to clients as well.
Nice. So when you set up, say you have a team that has a client that wants 2 delegates.
Yeah.
So how does your structure set up for that? You give them 2 delegates. Yeah. Do you have a team lead or something that's kind of over those delegates that's also kind of over another team, and then a CSM that's kind of overseeing multiple? Like how does your structure work there?
Yeah, good question. So the answer is it's changing, and I can't tell you how it's changing just yet because I haven't told the company yet. But if you're at the company and you're listening to this, the model's changing. But
sorry for the question.
Sorry to let you know on a podcast. Today we have a lead that sits back, that is kind of sits above or supporting that person from a technical perspective, from a coaching perspective, from a client relationship perspective, and that model seems to be working. It's the typical kind of pyramid, if you will, structure of management that most consulting firms work with. We're as it might not come to any surprise, looking to build a more flat decentralized and democratic organization as we scale. And we're doing some innovative things in that realm that I can't talk about just yet, but they are geared, as the ethos of the company is, towards providing more choice and autonomy to the individual contributor, to the person who at the end of the day is providing service to our clients. And the more we can empower them, that's where you'll see the innovation for our business, is empowering the person, the delegate, the person at the end of the day, providing them more opportunities to make more money, delivering more of the value from the client relationship to them, and providing them better ways to grow their skill set, have more autonomy over their day, and self-manage and build their careers as well.
Nice. And then I really like this part of it, because this is, again, the way that we do things here. Is it looks like you don't have long-term contracts. It's a month-over-month engagement with your clients, right?
Yeah.
Which means it puts the onus on you to give exceptional service to your clients.
Yeah.
And I really like that, because then it's, like I said, the onus is on us to make sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do. You don't have any SOWs, and you have a month-over-month agreement. So kind of explain to me why you guys chose that framework instead of long-term contracts, please.
Yeah, it's a bit unique, and appreciate that. From the buyer side, it's a low barrier to entry. It's really easy to say, all right, it's month to month. Fine, we'll figure it out. Like, if it sucks, if they don't do their work, then we cancel at any time. That piece is really freeing for a buyer and lowers the barrier to what a relationship could look like. The other thing on that is, so that's from a buyer perspective, they like that. Sometimes we're filling the gap for a Salesforce administrator that might be on maternity or paternity leave. Sometimes it's like long-term sick leave of absence for some reason. We can fill in there. Sometimes it's they're looking to hire somebody and they need somebody today. They want to hire somebody full-time and we're stepping in. Most cases, we're replacing a full-time administrator, but there are kind of interim solutions like that, and people like the ability to have low barriers to entry. Also, we serve small businesses who don't always have the ability to write a big check up front, and that's okay. That's like on the client side. From our side, the thing that we like is that not all clients are created equal. Most clients, the vast majority of our experience with clients is warm, fuzzy, wonderful relationships. But every once in a while, you get a client that doesn't fit our model, that doesn't agree with how we do business, that for whatever reason, culturally in their business, it's not a place that can have clear expectations and healthy relationships. It's not a place that can be driven on delivering a minimum viable product. They want to spec everything out to the nines to begin with. And so that, anytime you take a stand, whether it be, being a fan of something or a political stand or a personal stand or an ideological stand, you have people on the other side of the audience that don't take that stand and take the opposite stand. And so when it comes to business culture, if you've got a very hectic, chaotic internal business, and we've had like maybe 2-3 clients in the 4-year history of our business, we've serviced hundreds of clients, we've had maybe 2 or 3, that the culture in their business is not one that can tolerate anything but extreme responsiveness and speccing things out to the nine in a waterfall methodology versus an agile methodology. They don't give clear expectations. They don't respond to clear expectations. And it's usually companies that are honestly going through hard times for one reason or another. They're going through a change of leadership. They just took a round of funding, but they don't have the operators inside to actually execute on that funding. It's usually isn't just like bad people. It's usually like bad circumstances that cause these things. But getting back to it, the month-to-month relationship is nice from our side, is that we can say, you know what, this relationship doesn't work from our side as well. At the end of the month, we're gonna finish service. So that's only happened maybe 3 or 4 times, but it does happen. So that's why it's convenient from our side. Because at the end of the day, as I mentioned at the beginning, how can we give more back to the delegate, to the person providing the service? And them having a horrible client is one of those things that really weighs down the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody wants to work in that. But, I mean, good for you for knowing that you can take that stand and being willing to take that stand. I mean, because it's nice to have money coming in, right? And it's hard for a lot of people to say, I'm not going to walk away, or I'm going to walk away from that money, but being willing to walk away from that money and knowing what your parameters are to walk away from that money. And then, I mean, having the cojones to do it is a big deal. So good on you for having the ability to do that.
I'd rather be the employer that can retain talent over time. It's for me to retain, for us to retain talent and have talent that's excited to work there. That does your recruiting for you. A happy workforce that's motivated, that's making money, that's growing personally. That's your best recruiting tool. Client revenue comes and goes. You'll figure out other relationships, and a percentage-wise, there is good clients out there. There's good relationships out there. So it's not like something we're excited to do.
No, but nobody's excited to.
and if you're one of those clients listening to this, we still love you. We'll happy to kind of revisit the conversations. But sometimes you've got to break up just like in any relationship. So, and it could be timing on either side. Yeah.
Sure. But then on the flip side of that, I'm curious, have you ever had one of those customers that's like, hey, I just need you for a month or two, because you have this month over month, and then you've just done such a good job where they're like, man, we'll just keep you. We don't need to hire that.
Yeah, that's probably the most common story. Is that we are like an interim stopgap solution, and it's like, oh, this is great. Like, and they start getting reports and data that you had just only dreamed of before, and you're like, holy smokes. And, we've got something like 38% of our clients that come on with us in a year get a promotion in 6 months after signing. Within 6 months after signing.
Nice.
Because we've got all the technical stuff covered, so they can focus on building their own relationships, brokering really difficult change, managing change internally, figuring out what their individual contributors need or their team needs. And then they've got somebody that knows all the technology. They don't have to focus on the technology piece. They can just focus on delivering, like, oh, look at this great thing I'm rolling out for you. And then here's this next thing I'm rolling out for you. And so it makes our clients good.
Right. It's got to be nice for them also to not have to think about all the payroll and, I mean, all that stuff also, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
totally.
It's nice for you to have to deal with that and them just deal with the consequences of the good work that you guys are providing.
I'll tell you, probably the biggest issue is the hiring market right now. The hiring market right now is crazy for everyone. Everyone says it. But for Salesforce and like sysadmins and the go-to-market space, it's incredibly difficult. And I know because we hire a lot. I know how difficult it is. I know firsthand how difficult it is. And so our clients come to us, and I think there was a rush at around like Labor Day, there seems to be a rush from everybody. But there was a rush from our clients of like, hey, we need somebody now, and we don't have them. And we were like, well, luckily we staffed up, but we're having a hard time hiring people too. It's not just a one size it's a problem that everyone's having.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to revisit what we talked about a little bit earlier, where I said we'll get into that later.
Sure.
And that's your delegates.
Yeah.
Some people call them agents, some people whatever they call them. And I think we've gone over a little bit of this stuff, but it sounds like most of them are remote.
Yeah.
Is that fair in saying? Okay.
Yeah, we operate in
so where do you source?
We operate in something like 20 U.S. states. So quite a few.
Nice. Okay, so they're U.S. people.
Yeah.
And So it sounds like you like autonomy, trust and autonomy over hand-holding.
Yeah.
From what we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
So how do you balance giving autonomy to your team and ensuring excellent quality?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, good. Those are good questions. So the whole QA, quality control, a little bit of a secret sauce, but I'll tell you, it's a great interview process and a technical interview that people go through before they get started with us and come on board. That's kind of the first step. They meet with a couple different managers. We go back and forth on questions. We do some technical analysis, work with them, and they prove that they can do the job. That's step one. Step two is great onboarding. So when they come on board, what's that onboarding experience like? How do you set a relationship, expectations? How do you maintain those expectations over time? How do you, what is the SaaS industry? How does the SaaS industry operate? Because those are most of our clients. How to run an effective sprint cadence, and where are the potential pitfalls that you're going to encounter. So because we focus on this one level of service, and we don't do like 15 different things, we do like one thing. We're really hyper specialized on delivering excellence in that regard. So that onboarding experience is very precious to us. So that's kind of step two. Step one's hiring. Step two is onboarding effectively. And step three is like ongoing, checking up on their accounts. So it's pretty regular that our leads sit on calls, that they're aware of the client relationships, that they're able to step in if there's anything outside the norm with regards to the service delivery. That from a technical perspective, we've got the backup if something happens. But those are, I'd say, the real big things, if you will, is that those three steps.
Nice. So you said you're operating in 20 different U.S. states.
Yeah, about.
Is that just because that's as far as the people that you've gotten, or is there a reason that it's only 20?
That's where we found. Well, there's you get the most populous ones first, and then there's the less. We operate in some pretty low population density areas, but you get Texas, New York, Florida, Ohio. Some of the big ones first.
Sure.
And then the smaller ones begin to trickle in if we find good talent. But finding good talent who is the right kind of cultural fit, the right skill level, that is right in the right point in their career, that is excited to work from home, excited to do those things. It's not easy. It's not an easy task. And we do try to align with time zones of our clients. So if our clients are Eastern Standard, we're going to try and pair them with talent that's on the East Coast. And so having a distributed team from that perspective is really nice. It also lets us service the European market from the East Coast as well.
Nice. Okay, cool. So you've been doing this since 2017 with Delegate.
Yeah.
When everything hit with COVID, did that throw you guys for a punch, or since you guys are mostly remote, did COVID really not do much to you? How did that whole thing affect you guys?
I think everybody held their breath, honestly. And if you're one of our employees listening to this, don't panic. But all of us were like, okay, how does this affect my business? I don't think anyone had done the real analysis on their business prior to how a pandemic would have affected their business. Why would you? That's such a strange, real exercise to have gone through. But, how is this going to affect my business? We held our breath. I don't know if all of our clients were going to kind of stop paying us. I'll tell you that for a minute there, all of our clients, month-to-month contracts. Something like 70% of our clients just happened to be late that month on payment.
Yeah.
And so when those types of things happen, you just hold your breath, keep your head down, try and keep your mental state, and do the things, you focus on the 3 feet in front of you, the 3 feet to the left, and 3 feet to the left, right. You can't focus on the whole mountain. You don't have the ability to. That's not how you really get through a problem like that. We were fortunate in the fact that most of our clients are venture-backed software companies, and they weren't profitable anyway. They weren't operating on customer revenue anyway. They were operating on funny money from venture capitalists. And so they may have, you noticed a lot of companies like laid off employees, and I won't name names because I don't get in trouble, but a lot of big companies that were overvalued took this as an opportunity to lay off employees without kind of taking the bad press associated with it. Just like, oh, it's a pandemic, everybody got, people getting laid off or whatever.
Yeah.
But really, it was that their companies weren't doing well to start, and they were going to start offloading employees anyway. And they said, oh, this is good time as any. Might as well sneak it in with the rest of the layoffs that the industry is doing. So we know who you are. You didn't fool anybody, FYI, companies. And we luckily we lost one client during that period. We continued to sell through that period. Our team already worked from home, so it wasn't a big strain on the working relationship. We were already focused on agile, already month to month, already a fairly cost-effective service provider. So net new client acquisition was a little slow. A lot of very difficult sales conversations for that kind of Q2 of 2020, which is like the asterisk quarter for anyone's financial books, probably from here to the end of time. Q2 2020 is like asterisk. This is when COVID hit. We weren't completely immune from that, but overall, I would say that we probably got a pretty significant tailwind from COVID, and as did most companies that sell software, because it's work from home productivity, and all of a sudden we had a lot of people who were never going to be remote, all of a sudden remote and needing productivity software. So the industry did well, and we were right there with it.
Oh, good for you for taking the breath and being able to not panic and just figure out what to do from there, which actually kind of leads me into my next question. I'm gonna read something to you that's on your LinkedIn, and then go into.
Oh boy.
Your next. No, that's good. Go into your next question. This is when I get ready for these shows, I try and go through everything I can.
Sure.
To find some snippets, right? And the one thing that stood out to me with you was kind of your leadership abilities, right? From recommendations and things like that. So I'm just going to read this first paragraph from one of your recommendations, and it says, if you've ever questioned whether you can get something done, or you've been beat up all day and wondered how you'll get through the week, then, ladies and gentlemen, you need a Patrick Hudgins in your life. He doesn't stop at everything will be okay, or you'll get him next time. No, he's going to keep going till he gets things done, help you get them done, and or be the most boisterous cheerleader as you work towards an accomplishment. And then it goes on. That's just the very first paragraph of that recommendation, and you have several more recommendations that are kind of along the same vein. So that leads me into this question. What makes a good leader, in your opinion?
A good leader is somebody who's, I hope I've been a good leader, and I hope it's for the reasons that you're advocating for your people. And so if you're detached from your people, the Bible says something about the shepherd smelling like the sheep, that type of thing, where, being at a place where you smell like the people you're leading, where you understand what they go through, what their world looks like, that you feel what they feel, that you're eating what they're eating, you're living where they're living, those types of things, then you understand the challenges they face and why they face those challenges. And then if you're, for me at least, that's the compelling event that you're like, okay, I want to change something because I know these people and I value these people and I value this group. I am of this group and I understand these changes. I understand these challenges. I know what to do to make those challenges change, and then you start advocating for those groups. So any group I've been part of, I've always been the noisy one. You know, if I'm in a crowd, I'm the noisy one. I'm the, you know, like, hey, actually, these people over here have a hard talk problem. You know, I'm the pointing a stick at authority kind of a person by nature. We should do things differently. Did you know that doing this, you know, hurts these people, and that we would probably be better served under these conditions? That's been, you know, my athletic experience. That's been my sales experience, and it's I strive for it to be my experience today. And we strategically set up the company so I have, because now I'm in the leadership chair, so I now have people poking sticks at me, and they're there for a reason, poking sticks
Sure.
at me for that purpose, so we can have that dialogue. That's the kind of adversarial relationship that I think is healthy for ultimately finding the best path forward for any given group.
Okay. So this is another thing that stuck out there. It's interesting to me. All of these recommendations were that had to do with your salesmanship, right? They all had to do with sales. They all had to do with your leadership ability. A lot of people, when they think of sales, or salesmen, salespeople seem icky, right? When you think of sales, right? You don't seem icky. You seem very real,
well, thanks.
Very down to earth, and well, you seem like a real good leader. So how did you get into the sales game and keep real and just keep who you are, right? Like how were you able to keep that realness of Patrick and become the top seller?
You know, you've got to believe in the thing that you're selling with the same capacity. Like, you know, I know the best sellers I've ever met believe at the end of the day all the way in their product in the right way, and that it is truly an evangelistic sale, and that the buyer of this product, the market for, you know, the where the product is meeting the market, that they can deliver conviction on how their product is going to solve a real world need. And so I got it into the game, honestly, not from money, from the fact that you get to solve problems. These are the types of problems that I want to solve. I think engineers like to solve engineering problems. I think there's, you know, educators like to solve education problems. Doctors like to solve medical problems. I like to solve complex people problems and software problems and business problems. And so at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, is you're building faith in a potential course of action. And if you have the right mindset of the buyer in mind, like the buyer, you know, like what is do right by the buyer mentality, and you believe in that, where it's like, all right, let's find the right solution for it. If it's my software, it's my product, great. But if there's another solution, let's find that together too. And you're enthusiastic about solving the problem more than you are selling the product. I think that's where you build genuine relationships, and I think that's how you sell. I think that's my ethos.
Nice. So the one thing that I've learned from doing these shows is just founders have, every one of them, right, have passion for what they do, and that's been consistent with every one of them that I've interviewed, and there's no lack of that with you, obviously. So keep it up. You know, good on you. We're 50 minutes into this thing, so we should probably go ahead and dock this boat.
Sure.
So I've got a couple more questions that I ask everybody that's on this show. I wanted to ask you a few more, but we're rapidly running out of time.
Sure.
So we'll go what advice would you give to founders or soon-to-be founders that are going to be watching this show?
Talk to your clients, talk to your potential clients, solve the problem, solve the real problems, be passionate for the problem first, and feel the problem first, smell like the sheep, if you will. Go out and get really intimate with the problems. I would say you don't need, in this market with all the tools available to us, how cheap AWS is, how cheap and free a lot of problems are, you can string together a company without necessarily asking for permission to do so from someone with capital. I think part of the reason why you're solving problems and passionate about problems, if you're an entrepreneur, is that you want to do so and don't feel like you need permission from somebody else. So I think there's a climate in entrepreneurship right now of permission seeking, and I think it's kind of built by people with venture capital that are looking to allocate that capital to validate entrepreneurs. Your validation should come from your clients, and your customers, not from somebody giving you money. So please take that to heart when you're building your company.
Nice. And then what is the best way for our viewers to get in touch with you if they so wish?
Oh, yeah. So you can go to delegate.team, check us out. You can submit a contact form. You can follow me at Patrick_Hudgins on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn at, hit the search bar for Patrick Hudgins or delegate.team, and love to connect.
Right on. And we will have all that on the landing page as well. So, Patrick, it was awesome having you on. Thank you for coming on and doing this with me. You have a really, really great weekend and a good rest of your day.
You too, bud. Cheers.
Right on. Cheers.